What's going on, people? Welcome back to Premier League Unpacked, and we're here today with the boys. Got a lot to discuss. Harry Kane situation, David Raya talking about United, and we're going to dive into it straight away. But just before you do so, make sure you smash a like on this video if you're watching now or if you're watching later on. Subscribe if you're new. All the Mandem's channels are in the description below. Just click the link, free of charge. Support the Mandem. But big news today, Bish. Come to you first in regards to this Harry Kane situation. It looks like Bayern are in London. The bosses are down and they're speaking to Daniel Levy, and he's looking like he's willing to let Harry Kane go. I'm not too sure if you've read much about it or if you heard any of the news about it, but he's looking serious, man.
It's crazy. I'm lost for words, to be honest with you. I just really wasn't expecting it. I thought if we saw Kane move this window, I was almost certain it was going to be somewhere in England. I think like a lot of other people, I assumed that goal scoring, Premier League goal scoring record was going to mean more to him now at this point in his career than going and trying to pick up a trophy or two, because he's kind of missed, it seems, the window to like really run it up with the trophies. You started to think maybe he's going to go for that Alan Shearer record. So I just really didn't expect it. I don't really know the politics behind it. I don't know if it's a thing of, Tottenham have got somebody in mind. So that I just, from a Tottenham point of view, you just think, what are they going to be able to do with that money in this window at this point in the window? It looks like a Gareth Bale situation all over again, where whatever money they get, you don't really trust this manager, this ownership, and a team that's not in the Champions League to be able to reinvest and get that same level of quality back. So it's a bad situation for Tottenham.
But it's a bit mad though, because the Bale situation, they in that kind of time with that money, 80 million plus or whatever he went for, there was a bit more value in the market where you could go out there and spend
Yeah,
that kind of money. Do you know what I mean? Buy three, four players now. 80
yeah,
million, bro. You're lucky if you're getting two players out of that.
yeah. I mean, I think if Arsenal, let's say somehow randomly Arsenal have been forced to sell one of their big players this window. Let's say Saka had just said he's got his heart set on leaving England and he wants to go Spain or something, just for hypothetically speaking. And let's say you guys got 100 million for him. I'm sure you probably get more, but let's just say you got 100 mil. Arsenal, in the position they're in today, with the pulling power that they have, as someone that's just finished second, they've got a manager that's been there a few years, a good project going, some good pieces. You could probably take that 100 mil and go and get someone that's Saka-esque. Do you know what I mean? You might be able to go and get I don't know if you'd be able to get Osimhen for 100 mil, but you'd be able to go out and get someone that's of that caliber. The problem for me, for Tottenham, and maybe this was a bit of the problem when the Bale situation happened, maybe like you say, that's a bit different because they tried to spread it across different players. But I just think even if they get that 80 mil, 90 mil, 100 mil, even if there is a player out there at that value that they could bring in that's going to get them 30 goals a season, he's not going to want to come to Tottenham right now. So then they're in a situation of either trying to break that 80 down into three or four 25, 30 million pound signings. Maybe they go and grab a Vardy-esque player and a somebody over here. But then you just kind of diluted the quality of the squad, especially when Kane was one of the last remaining high value pieces. The last however many windows, that seems to be what they've been doing anyway, is getting like mediocre players for like 15, 20, 30 million. That isn't what that team's needing right now. It's needing a few certified, proven class players that are gonna, be able to carry them through into a bit of a transition into being able to build something again. So if I'm a Tottenham fan, I probably would think I wish we'd sold him last season or the season before. Do you know what I mean? I wish we cashed in at a point when we had a better manager who had more pulling power in, say, a Conte or something. We probably would have got more money for him at the time. We were in the Champions League. I just think it's a bad situation for Tottenham, and it serves Levy right. Hopefully, you know, hopefully he does get the bad end of the deal on it, because he always wants to do everything as if it's always business decisions instead of footballing decisions. But I think he shot himself in the foot this time, because what did Kane really achieve for them this season? They didn't really benefit from keeping him, other than maybe they finished where they finished instead of finishing 11th or something. But in the grand scheme of things, it was a forgettable season. They didn't win anything. They didn't qualify for anything. They might as well have got rid and had that money, or been able to start building something else. So
Mm.
that's where I land on it. I don't know. I can see Lee's nodding his head as I'm
We got a
speaking. That's always a
smile
good
out of him
sign.
as well, Rob.
It's
We got
always
a
a good
smile out
sign.
of him.
Listen,
Me and
mate,
Lee
when
agreeing.
your club signs Havertz, bro, I'm telling you that can put any man in depression, bro. So
Mm, mm,
it takes a bit of
Yo,
time
thank you, Lee. You get me. I
takes a
thought
bit
I
of
was the
time
only
to
one
warm
new
up,
to
bro.
my
It takes
shit.
a bit of time to warm up. But
yeah,
listen, everything Bish said, but shout out to the guys as well, man. And the guys ain't here today as well. I know they
yeah.
obviously running late and all sorts, but shout out to them. But
Mm-hmm.
do you know what? I have to agree with everything Bish said, and I wanted to say like it was quite. It wasn't a shock, but I was a little bit more surprised that they even got Madison. That's
Yeah.
how low I rate Spurs, and it's not even a personal thing. They're
Mm,
just they've never had that juice to get somebody. I think the player who I knew prior to, and I thought that was actually like a real good player, was Berbatov because I
Mm,
knew about him in Europe a little bit. That was when I
yeah.
was really starting to do my own scouting, and I was like, you know what, this guy looks someone who
Mm,
who's got clout, and they bought him. But the Madison thing, I know they've been in the Champions League for quite a few years, but still, it just didn't. I was like, wow, okay, like especially where they are right now, it didn't seem to be a Spurs signing per se for where they are. But listen, if they lose Harry Kane, they're done. And I think something which you, as Man City fans, as Arsenal fans, and I would probably say Chelsea fans, Man United fans suffer with this as well. When clubs know that they have money, they ain't gonna
yeah.
get two players. Man
Yeah.
United just bought was not Haaland, sorry,
Hoyland. Yeah.
Hoyland, sorry, for what 65 million. That's not
Yes.
much change.
bro, 72 with these add-ons on that, bro.
Yeah,
That's
but
big money, man.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do what they've got, what they've paid right now
And
is
what it takes
65
out of the
million.
budget. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is taken out of the budget is 65 million pounds. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, hold on a second. You ain't getting much out of that, bro. They ain't, if
No.
you're getting a Kolo Mwani,
Yeah.
really and truly, you're gonna be spending at least 75 million
How
pounds,
much
80
would you have to
million
spend
pounds.
on a Tony? How much would
And
a
a
Tony
Tony,
cost? That's going to be
maybe
40,
you know
50
what? Nah,
mil.
you know what? I'll be honest. I think with a Tony, I think certain clubs will kind of get him for about 65 million pounds, I think.
But there you go. That might be most of the Kane money gone on
Yeah,
Tony.
yeah, yeah, you're right. So I mean, look, for me, I just don't think that there's any way of getting around this.
Mm,
This is a big pivotal moment for Spurs. They have to sell him because they don't have that money like that, and if they do, they don't spend it. Because I know sometimes Patrick says we do, we make the most money. We got all these concerts, we got the underground, bloody go karts, and all these other things. We got high high season tickets, and that's true. They have got all that stuff. They
Man
have
said they
all
got
that.
go karts. Go
Listen, but
karting's expensive, to be fair.
they don't spend the money. That's the thing. They don't spend the money. So
Yeah.
listen, man. For me, I have to say 110%. I think if Harry Kane goes, listen, Spurs are done. They're done for, man. I don't think they're ever going to get back to not for a period of time. They're not going to be a team that I'm worrying about. I don't know about you, Premsley, but I'll be thinking straight away, we need to be doing a double over them for the next couple of seasons because the way that we're moving and the way that they will be moving with the players they've got. And, something that you said, Bish, I'm not too sure if it's the manager per se. I don't know because I think he's actually quite decent. But
Mm-mm.
the reason why I don't think he would get the players that he would want in terms of the high profiles, because he ain't got that clout.
Mm-hmm.
You've you've been doing it in Japan, you've been doing it in
Mm-hmm.
Australia, you've been doing it in Scotland, brother. Listen, people know like I've been going to Scotland for years. My granddad was Scottish. Pure games I've been going to. Celtic. My granddad was the biggest Celtic fan ever. That
Cool.
football is trash. It is trash,
Do
bro.
you know what? Yeah, they've
So
just
bad.
Look at
dealt with this whole
Gerard.
Harry Kane situation totally wrong, in
Yeah.
my opinion,
Yeah.
Tottenham. Because if you know a player's gonna go, and you know this player's missed training last season because he wanted to go to move to Man City or whatnot, and he's unsettled at the club. There's paper talk around him all the time. You'd put something in place to say, you know what? If this
But no,
kind of
you know
money
what?
comes in for him, we'll let him go, and we'll already bring a player in.
You know what though,
Smart
Premsley,
people do
yeah?
that, man.
Let me tell you, that Bish wouldn't even know about this right now in the last 15 years because he's never
Mm.
been in this predicament. But bro, I remember when Henri left, bro. I remember this season, the 2 seasons before, and then the season before, and then when he left. And I will never forget. Like I thought he was always going to sign. I genuinely,
Mm,
no, I'm stupid. I was younger, but I always thought he would sign. I thought he would never leave until we
Mm.
wanted him to go. And when he left, I was a bit like, because remember the couple of seasons before, he started picking up injuries, and I
Yeah.
felt like even though he had given us so much, I felt that at that moment he owed us now because we had given him so much and given him the new contracts, and I thought he was going to stay. So from a Spurs point of view, listen, I hate Spurs. I hate them with all my heart. But at the same time, you can't begrudge Spurs for thinking he's a Spurs boy. He ain't an Arsenal boy. Like, we can banter all we want, but he ain't. Now, Bish,
Yeah.
you may not necessarily know or remember it because, as I said, for the last 15, 20 years, no one that you've wanted to go probably has
Yeah.
left. And if they have left, you've spent more money or spent equally as much money to get even a better player, probably. So
Yeah.
it's all right for you. But I don't know about you, Primsy, though. Like, with the whole Henri thing, I know we're not talking about Henri, but as an Arsenal fan, bro, I don't feel like you would think Henri was going to leave at the time. I really didn't. So if I'm thinking about now Spurs and Harry Kane, I feel like it's hard to kind of like slander them, bro. I really do, bro. I
Do you know
do.
what it is with the Henri with me? I kind of had the feeling that he was coming to the end of his tenure at Arsenal at that time when he moved to
I
the new
didn't, bro.
stadium and all that. I just had that feeling because we started to fall off as a club in general. Like, big players were leaving around him. He was kind of one of the only mainstays that really stayed before he kind of got off. So, but what I'm saying with the Harry Kane situation, I understand the fans obviously love him. They want him to stay, and he's a world class player. You would want him to stay, but as you know, Daniel Levy running the football club, you will look at it, you'll take all these hints that, you know what, this player wants to go. He's running down his contract. He's in his last year of his contract. Why not then, before you even sell him, go and buy a replacement? I have a feeling they tried to bring in Richarlison to kind of soften the blow for Harry Kane to move on potentially this season or the following season. And that signing hasn't worked out for them. But they're not proactive as a club. Like you said, Lee, Arsenal are on an upwards trajectory at the moment, and Tottenham are on a downwards trajectory. I'm expecting to batter them home and away as well. But now the biggest thing around the whole situation around Tottenham, they've lost their pulling power because the only pulling power they had was Antonio Conte. Nobody
Yeah.
looked at Tottenham and think, you know what, I want to
Well,
go and play at
and Harry
Tottenham.
Kane
And
as well.
and a Champions League, and they
People
were in the
want to play with
Champions
Harry
League
Kane.
last year. Now they ain't got none of them. They're not going to have the Champions League, Harry Kane or Conte. So the three things they did have are all out the window, aren't they? Sorry, bro. Go
Yeah,
on.
no,
Land your thought.
definitely 100%. But in my opinion, I just think if you're a player and Antonio Conte comes knocking, I'm not
Yeah.
really looking at
You
who's
can
around and
bypass
who's
that other
playing.
stuff.
You can bypass playing with Harry Kane in football. One thing we know, careers are short-lived. Anyone can move on at any time. And when players are signed to football clubs, they know, you know what I mean? I might sign, Harry Kane might go. But the biggest pulling power is Antonio Conte because you know he can go out there and bring the next Harry Kane, bring in world stars. Now they've lost that. All they've got to offer is a nice stadium. That is just the truth of the matter. They've only got a nice stadium to offer, nice changing rooms, you get me? And they don't even pay the most in the Premier League as well. It's not like they're putting
Yeah.
down big money for
Yeah.
I'm
players
telling
and
you,
big wages. So
Spurs are
And
not
them
done.
looking
days are
good for them.
gone. Now that Saudi are going to pay you 10 times whatever you get paid anywhere, nobody is really going to be getting deals done on where the big payers anymore. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have to be getting deals done on other
The
fronts.
thing
But
is, though, right? If you think about it, like, Man City changed the course of football in England because they don't have to pay for. I know some clubs, some players they do, but not all the players that they have, they pay them the biggest wages. Why? Because
Yeah.
Pep's there
Yeah.
and people want to
Yeah.
play with him. So
So true.
ultimately, it's a thing where if they're thinking if you can go to Man City and get similar or even more wages that you'll get at Spurs and win, why on God's green earth are you going to go to them? And then the next option is Arsenal. We pay good wages now. We 100% we do. Saka's earning what 200, whatever it is. Jesus is 250. Kai Havertz is on 280, whatever it is. Brother, listen, I know,
It's a
it's mad.
mad
So,
thing.
but like Chelsea, we know they're always going to spend money and they're going to give them long contracts as well. So, which actually in favor that in turn can help the player because they're playing bad. They're still on this 6-7 year contract.
Yeah.
And then you've got Liverpool. Okay, maybe they're a club
Yeah.
that don't always pay the top wages or the
Yeah.
top fees, but they listen. There's so many clubs.
They'll
So
still spend. United. Yeah.
and then I keep forgetting Newcastle. So
Yeah.
so in
Yeah.
truth, like it's a thing where like you're now looking at it and thinking to yourself, right, where the Spurs fall in this pecking order? And in truth, you're right. If Harry Kane goes, they have nothing. They got a
And the
manager.
thing is, as well, Lee, they've left this. Sorry for cutting. They've left this. Let this go on for so long, yeah. That
Yeah.
there's not even that much of the window left, really.
Yeah.
A lot
They've
of
run the
players have
value
already moved
down.
on. Harry Kane, yeah, if they get 80 million for him, Lee, I would say that's a decent price. Sell him with a year left on his contract. But then with that 80 million, who are you going to actually go out there and buy? And obviously, you were just touching on this, the attractiveness of Tottenham. Which players would we sit here and say that would want to go and play for Tottenham right now?
I'll be honest. I'm putting 100 mil down, and I'm either going for 100 mil. I would try and get Alvarez. That's what I'll do for Man City. I would, because you're not going to get anyone from Man United, and who wouldn't want anyone from Man United? Liverpool, you're not getting anyone. In Europe, you're not getting Osimhen. 100%. I would go and get Alvarez. He's probably thinking, bro, I'm a World Cup winner and I'm holding bench like casual.
Yeah.
And I ain't going to be playing this season. So,
And
I ain't going to be starting.
He filled up his trophy cabinet nice and quick at City. He got a Champions League, FA Cup, Prem under his belt.
100. Are you joking me? I'm putting 100 million.
If I'm Alvarez, though, I'm looking at Tottenham, yeah. This is not just the Arsenal banter, putting that to one side. I'm looking at them thinking, fuck
this
that.
Could be a deep...
You get me? These men are looking dead out here. There's no trajectory to that team. You don't want to be that lost guy like a James Rodriguez who went out there, smashed the World Cup, got a big deal. You get me? He's won whatever he's won at City, but he's only been there for 2 years now. There's a space opened up on the right as well. I've been hearing a lot of Man City fans saying that they like to give Alvarez an opportunity out on the right now. Mahrez is gone, and see what he can do there. I won't even be looking at Spurs. Like, I think their level of player, I know this might sound mad, yeah, but I don't even think they can draw Ollie Watkins away from Aston Villa, bro.
Nah, you're
crazy. I think that's how bad. Nah, I'm telling you. I think under Unai Emery, yeah, I'm telling you, Aston Villa, are going to finish above.
I know where you're going.
Aston Villa are going to finish above Tottenham, man.
You know what?
Nah. You're talking from your heart, bro. You're talking from your heart.
You know what I was going to say?
Trust me, bro. If you're Ollie Watkins, you're going to want to join Tottenham over playing at Aston Villa with the project Unai Emery's got.
Aston Villa, bro. Come on, man.
Not
just
for
a quick
me,
Just a quick
bro,
2
these
points.
men just signed Dembele as well, bro.
True. Just a quick 2 points on mostly on Levy, really. I think that Levy has been like reluctant to sell to English clubs, both in this window and in previous windows. And I think it's an ego thing. And what I mean by that is, I think that he really thinks that he don't want to sell Kane to a United or a City because somehow like that's going to affect them competitively because they've got to come up against these teams, or like they're going to be competing with them teams for places. But if he'd been able to be a bit more humble and a bit more realistic and understand that they definitely weren't competing with City at the time when City supposedly wanted him. And to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to be competing with United anytime soon. So if United wanted to take him earlier on in the window, and if you could have potentially had a situation where you know that United are kind of almost as desperate as you are to get a striker in, and you know that United might come and spend big, especially if you'd had it kind of lined up from during the season, where it's like, right, Kane's already agreed in principle, United already know, first week of the season, we just get the deal done, 130 mil, bish, bash, bosh, you know what I mean? But now where he's like not wanting to sell to England, a lot of these European clubs, one, ain't got the money, and two, they'll leave you to be back end of the transfer window under pressure, especially like a Bayern. They know that even if they buy Kane or don't buy Kane, they're probably going to win the league next year. They're probably going to win their domestic cup. They'll probably do okay in the Champions League. So they could wait another season and try to get him on a free or whatever it might be. So I think Levy, as much as it's partly maybe been him like, oh, I've got a number or I've got this, I think a big part of it is ego as well. And the thing I would be worried about as a Tottenham fan, yeah, and I hope Tottenham fans don't feel like I'm going too hard here, but look at the situation that Everton are in at the moment. And I thought of this before when you guys was talking about Tottenham as Arsenal fans, and I thought about the Everton-Liverpool dynamic, and I thought about the fact that if you just go back even just 10 years, there was a couple of seasons where Liverpool and Everton were 4th and 5th. Everton were finishing 4th, Liverpool were finishing 5th, Liverpool were finishing 4th, Everton were finishing 5th. They were kind of same way that Arsenal and Tottenham have had a little run of years where Arsenal were 4th, Tottenham were 5th, Tottenham, Arsenal 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th. And then Liverpool got somebody in and started to build something. And at the same time that was happening, Everton made loads of bad ownership decisions. They missed, they lost a long-term manager. They lost some of the better players that they'd had. They failed multiple rebuilds. And the next thing you know, Everton are on the verge of relegation. the season after Liverpool are competing for the title. And I think for Tottenham, they're not going to be, I'm not saying they're going to get relegated anytime soon, but I do think that if Kane goes, and if this money gets reinvested badly, and you've not got another Kane just coming through the youth setup, and you've not got a good manager there that you've had for years that's going to just help you ride out that situation. And as Lee said, there's about 5, 6, 7 teams now. There's a Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle City, United, Arsenal. That's before you even get to the
trust me, you
Brighton,
got to throw
Villa.
Villa in there, man. Trust me,
Brighton,
man.
Villa.
Villa are going to do good.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of teams now where if Tottenham are not careful, they could end up in a situation where next season they're finishing 11th. And then the season after that, they're struggling to build on 11th. And all of a sudden, they're finding themselves having to really try and drag themselves back into this top 6, top 7 conversation. Because if you ain't got the big money where you know that even if you have 2 or 3 years at 10th or 11th, you're going to be able to eventually invest and spend big and take an opportunity and force your way back up there, you can just get stuck further down the league. Times can pass, money can pass, players can pass, and then it becomes very difficult to get back from a 10th, 11th, 9th, 7th back to like competing for the top 4, because you've got to basically rebuild a whole squad, and you ain't got 400 million to go and spend in one transfer window.
But you know what though?
I'd be
It's
panicking.
weird how they can't spend that kind of money, because their revenue streams, like Lee said, they've got revenue coming in from all over the place. You get me? It's surprising that they're not going out there and just trying to make a statement in the window. I think Tottenham might have to go a different route now. Instead of signing these fancy players, go and do what Brighton have done, man.
That's why, but apparently they are trying to do that new data model. But that's why their fans want the owner out, because they have got money, but they just choose not to spend it. Similar to what the Cronkies are, but I think the Cronkies, obviously, we had an issue with. We had Usmanov and we have Cronky, so that was why they were like, "Well, we're not putting money in if we can't buy you out," basically.
Yeah, that makes
Whereas
sense.
with Joe Lewis and Enoch and all that, they just refuse to put money in, brother. They're just taking money. So I think that's where the issues are with them. But I have to say though, like, as much as again, I'm not trying to be too shameless, bro. I think we have to pump the brakes a little bit, bro. I know Aston Villa spent money, but we got to say it all together. We know Unai Emery is not the best league manager wherever he's gone, apart from PSG. And I think even if Spurs had a bad season this season, it'll be 2 bad seasons out of 10, bro. Like, Aston Villa have to prove it over a period of time. So I'm not saying Aston Villa ain't going to be good, bro. Listen, they're making moves. They got Tillemans, they got Pau Torres, they got bloody Ollie Watkins, they got the
Musa Dembele.
they got Dembele, they got a bagger, man. They got Liam Bailey, they got a bagger, man. There, like, I hate a Bundia, but I need to see it to believe it, like, properly.
But the thing is, though, Lee, what we can say is Unai Emery has got pedigree. And
no, he does.
if you look at him and you look at Postecoglou, Postecoglou might play attractive football.
But you know what, though?
Scotland isn't the Premier League, and you got to think, even when he did come to Arsenal, Unai Emery, towards the back end of his tenure before he got sacked, he kind of fell off. But he came here, 22-game unbeaten run. He was doing well. His system works. You get me? And it's a system where attacking players were thriving.
You see, the problem is though, some managers work better with crap players, bro, or less well-known players. And listen, shout out Sammy, my guy, Sammy, by the way. But you know, like, when you think about Postecoglou or Big Ange, whatever they're calling him, bro, it might be a thing where he might thrive in this thing because he's looking at it and be like, you know what, this is me, this is my team, and there's no expectations, and those low expectations might actually help them. All I'm saying is, I think they're going to be on demand, but it wouldn't surprise me if they actually have a bit of a better season than what I'm actually even saying or we're thinking, because ultimately every manager works in different conditions, bro. Pep can't do what Klopp did, working with not a shoestring budget, but working with different kind of players and having, like, he needs to work with a certain level and then raise them. Whereas Klopp likes to work with some of these undercover gems and then make them go to this world class level. And that's nothing to take away from someone like Pep or Klopp or whatever. But it's just horses for courses. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. And you know what, bro,
I think it all depends on Kane staying or going.
No,
though.
it does,
Without Harry Kane in that team, bro, I'm telling you, I can't see that.
100.
If I compare that Tottenham squad compared to that Aston Villa squad, player for player, the Villa squad's better. If I compare the managers,
play 1 game a week. They got 1 game a week.
Yeah, suppose. I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying, if you look
Deal
at it
will
on
go
paper,
through?
it doesn't look good for him. I have a feeling it
Because
will, man. I think they
we're
can't
talking a
afford to
lot, we're
lose out on
talking a
that
lot
money.
about it as if it's going to happen, but they're saying that at the moment Bayern are still about 15 million off what Levy wants 90 apparently, and so far Bayern have only offered 75. So is there going to be a situation where Levy finally settles for a lesser figure, or is there going to be a situation where Bayern up that amount, or is there going to be a situation where Bayern kind of almost like reopen the discussions for a United or something, where if it's like, if United see Bayern getting entertained at 75 and then Bayern are not budging, can United then come in and offer 85 and get him? Because then Tottenham are going to look at it and it's like, well, what, we're going to take 85 from United, or we're going to take 75 from Bayern. So, but part of me
You
could
know
see
what?
the
You know
deal
what?
still falling
This
through and Levy just cutting off his nose to spite his face and saying, if I
yeah.
don't get the number I want, I'm going to make him go for free next year, which would be,
But they know financially it's suicide for them, because
oh yeah,
regardless of what, yeah, if I think there's got to had some positive talks and positive strides in order for Bayern's bosses to come over to London and
yeah,
speak. They will kind of find an agreement. I think Levy would much rather sell him for a cut price fee to Bayern than he would sell him for 85 to United, because he knows the fans ain't going to be happy about it. He's just that kind of guy that does not want to sell his top players to any Premier League clubs. And I can just see something like that happening. But now we've touched on United, we'll segue into it, because
yeah,
we've got United on the agenda, and I think them signing Haaland, yeah, whatever the fuck his name is, bro.
Wayland,
You
yeah,
get me? Fucking Haaland
the
from Wish, or
B-Tech
whatever his name
Haaland,
is. You
yeah,
get me?
I'll go first
Like,
on this, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll go first.
I'm just surprised that what you've said hasn't come into fruition. Like, why have they put that kind of money down on him? What's it, 64 million, rising to 72 million, when Harry Kane's on the table, proven goal scorer, proven Premier League finisher. Personally, if he joined Man United, I think he'll take him to new heights.
mm-hmm.
Why haven't they gone down and put the money down? You know, United are not shy on paying wages anyway, because their revenue income's crazy. Go on, Lee.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on it?
I'll be honest with you. I said it to Saeed, and I'm gonna say it over and over and over again. Shout out, man. Me, I think Man United are in big trouble next season.
yep,
I really I can't stress it enough. And people are gonna say, you know the thing about Man United fans, okay, cool. Online Arsenal fans, we're known as moany people. We make up stories in our head, whatever it is.
mm-hmm.
But Man United are deluded beyond belief.
Gas heads,
They are
yeah,
so deluded, it is beyond belief. This is the same club that were cheering on Man City to win the league because they didn't want Arsenal to win the league and their history to be taken out by their rivals when they had a chance to stop them. This is the same club they were talking about. The same club that they talk about, Alex Ferguson, who made their history in the last 20 years, whatever it was, 30 years, for it to be taken over by Man City in the last 12, 13 years. So this is who we have to deal with. They've now bought a guy that they're now begging that is going to be this new messiah when he scored 9 goals in 180, I think it was 1,800 minutes. Now, look, can he turn out to be amazing? Yeah, he might do. But the last striker they bought that was meant to be this amazing player was Martial. So even that, can't you pump the brakes? Like surely you should have learned from that and said, you know what, he looks good. He looks because he actually does look good, but so did Martial. So much so that they put a Ballon d'Or clause in it, and look how he turned out. So
yeah,
I then look at the team that they've got. And I'm saying, right, they beat Arsenal last week, and they're going off this whole, right, they beat Arsenal, so it's amazing for them. And I wasn't even here last week, so I couldn't really get into it. But I think the issue that they had is that when they beat Arsenal, we're set up to play against them because they've got such a good counter-attacking team, and we keep the ball, similar to Man City, hence why they do
yeah,
quite well against them.
yeah,
When they're going to start playing Aston Villas, Everton's, Wolves,
West Ham,
Brentford's, West Ham's, they don't
yeah,
want the ball. So it's like hopscotch. You have it, hot potato, I have it. You have it, I have it. I think they're really going to struggle. Then given the captain's armband to Bruno. Now look, people have their opinions about him, but no one that they have in their team for me moves the needle. Nobody. I don't see any. I see moments of brilliance. That's what I see in their team. And then I just look at their defense and I'm like, look, everything looks good on paper. They're such a paper team, but I don't see anything exciting with them going forward. I don't see any real creativity. They have I
Yeah,
think they had the most chances last season, but when you saw, I didn't feel that. I know it's
yeah.
there on paper, but I didn't feel that.
Must have
When
been
you saw
half
Arsenal,
chances.
Jesus, it was almost like we had so many chances and we should have scored way more goals. I can see that, and I know maybe it's because I watch Arsenal week in and week out, but I just I don't see how this counter-attacking thing will work again this season. Shout out to Ali. I don't see how the counter-attacking is going to work because teams aren't dumb. The league's getting better. And
Yeah,
these teams know how to play. You've got Aston Villa now. They bought Liam Bailey. They've got Bundia. They've got Yuri Tillemans can play the ball over the top. They've got Musa Dembele. They've got Ollie Watkins. They're going to do the same thing that Man United want to do, but probably to a better degree because they've got variety. Man United don't have anything. So I feel like Man United are in big trouble. And listen, I can't wait for it to come crashing down because people, I see James and Saeed's channel wanking off over this bloody 20-year-old having a laugh. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that he's underage, but like he's having a good old time because they've brought
yeah.
this guy in there and all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, go back to the gym, bro. Because I don't know, like I don't know. Calm down, bro. You are lost. But anyway, listen, I don't know what you guys think, but I think Man United are
You
in
see, you're trying to say
big trouble.
testosterone's getting
Bro,
splurted
the
out.
best.
So
Hey,
you
listen,
green.
brother. I'm like, yo, you know what you need to do? You know they've been saying a lot of people saying online recently. You need to go outside and touch grass. He needs to go outside and do some press ups, bro. That's what he needs to do because he's losing it, bro. He's losing it, mate. But
Big
yeah,
up James, Joe. He's
yeah.
in
Shout out
top
James,
shape, though, isn't it? He's in top
The
shape,
man.
man. So, yeah, go on,
Uh,
Bish. What's your thoughts on the United situation?
you know
You
what? I
got?
agree with a lot of what Lee said. I think the problem for United is for United to try and close the gap on City and Arsenal, they had to go out and have a better window than both of us. They had to go out and add significantly more quality than we added. At very minimum, they needed to probably go to those main positions on their pitch where they were short. So up front, centre back, middle of the park, goalkeeper, that spine. Centre back, I guess it was more they just needed an extra top player to be able to cover for one of the other two are injured. But central midfield, up front, goalkeeper. I think they needed to add like Harry Kane quality. Do you know what I mean? Tuchemani quality. Like, okay, they've managed to bring Mason Mount in, but I think for me, they've not the quality that they've brought in isn't enough of a jump from what they already had, and in some cases it's still to be seen whether it's a jump at all. I mean, just on a bit of a side note with the Hoyland signing, I remember a time when United and United psychology, especially someone like Fergie, he wouldn't have signed Hoyland just on the sheer fact that there's no way that we're going to go out and have the B-Tech version of what Manchester City have got. Like, there was once upon a time when just it sounds like a joke.
This guy's name's killing him, innit?
Bruv, it sounds deep here, and obviously you might say, "Oh,
I
don't be
hear what you're
daft,
saying.
don't be daft." But once upon a time, United were that club. Fergie was that guy. There's no way we're even going to allow that narrative to exist, where we've basically gone out and had to get the secondary, lower, deader version of what they've got. So the fact that they're even doing that kind of stuff is a little bit representative of where they're at now. I think if I'm a United fan, where my optimism would have to come is all of their faith must be in Ten Hag and in what he's capable of as a manager, and particularly in terms of what he's capable of as a man manager and in terms of improving players and bringing the best out of players. Because I think the only way that United improve on last season with the squad that they've got at the moment is if he's able to get another 5-10% out of a lot of players like he did last year. Because in fairness, you know, Luke Shaw suddenly looked like one of the best defenders in the league. Wan-Bissaka went from looking not good enough to looking like someone that you could utilise at least as a second right back against the likes of Saka's and against Mbappe's and stuff like that. You know, there were players in that team that he managed to elevate. Now, if this season he can reawaken Sancho, and now we've got a Jadon Sancho that looks like the Jadon Sancho that was at Dortmund, and if he can find another few players that are already in that dressing room and lift them to another level, and then some of the guys that come in and do well, then maybe they could have a better season than last year. But that's a lot of ifs.
That I was just about to say, Fish. I was
still,
just
with
about
all of
to
them
say.
ifs, those ifs don't lead me to they could challenge for the title. It
Yeah.
leads me to they could have a more convincing season than last year. They could maybe be there or thereabouts for second place, but I just don't think they're anywhere near good enough. They've not got anywhere near enough star power to be able to compete at the top level
You
in
know
this
what though?
league.
But one thing I think we've got to realize, right? And I don't know what you think, Premji, as well, is it's not necessarily about the star power because listen, everybody who's been saying Arsenal have no world class players, so we don't have star power, but we've got goals around the pitch. We had 15 goals from Odegaard, we had 13 goals, I believe, from Saka,
Yeah,
14 or 15 goals from
Martinelli,
Martinelli. We had 10 goals from
Jesus.
Jesus. We had, I
Yeah,
think, 4 or 5 goals or 4 goals from
yeah,
Nketiah. So
yeah,
we were getting goals all over. Even I think every
yeah,
one of our outfielder
yeah,
players
yeah,
scored, every single one of them. So
yeah,
it's not necessarily about the star power, but they have no goals. What was it? So, wouldn't Rashford get like 22, 25 goals or whatever it was?
yeah.
No one else was getting goals in the team. And I don't feel like they've done enough to boost that up. Now, Hoyland's come in. Yes, they've bought a player, but is he levels? Nah, I don't see it. I don't see it. And, Onana, I like him, but is he that much of a needle mover? Listen, we're gonna find out. Listen, when we bought Ramsdale, we saw how much of a difference he makes. I'm sure when you bought Edison, you saw how
Yeah.
much of a difference he made. So I'm not gonna discredit that. But what I am also saying is that the Mount thing is as bad, equal to Havertz. But the thing is, Havertz, I know he's gonna be a big part of our system, but he's not. Yes, yes, he's not like we've got enough to still get a propel us to a certain point. I think the issue is that to win the title, I don't feel like Havertz is enough. But when you're looking at Mount, I don't feel like he's going to put you over the top. I don't feel like Hoyland's going to put you over the top. So I don't know. I
But
think
are
I
we
think Man
are we
United will
being a
struggle.
little bit harsh on Ten Hag? Because look, you know me, first of all, bro. I'm not with the whole United thing in it. I've grown up hating these guys, but putting all that to one side and thinking football, Ten Hag, you've got to give this man some credit. He's come into the league, first time in the Premier League. He's made some decent signings for them. I think Martinez is a good signing. I think Casemiro that he brought in is a good signing. I think Anthony I wouldn't have him in my team, but you got to give a player a year in the Premier League and see what they could do the following year. I think that's fair to say. He's won them a cup up until that Crystal Palace game where they drew and Elise scored that free kick. If they would have won that game, they would have went into the Arsenal game 2 points behind us. And that's in his first ever job in the Premier League. You get me? Understanding the league. Are we being too harsh on him to say he can't get better out of this squad now he's been there an extra year? Can he not get better out of Anthony? He's already worked with the player. Because Casemiro does pitch in with a few goals. Yeah, they might have not scored as many goals as the top 6 teams have last year, but Casemiro can pitch in with goals. We know Bruno Fernandes can score goals. Rashford can score goals. If this Hoyland kid comes in and ends up scoring, which is an if, but again, when you sign in any player, it doesn't matter which team it is, it's always an if because they haven't been in the league before. If Anthony could pick up on his goals, are we being too harsh on them? Because defensively, they have got a good side defensively. They brought in a new keeper, which I think is going to elevate them defensively because now they've got a sweeper keeper. They've not got a keeper that's going to be spilling the ball left, right, and centre into his own goal, who can actually play with his feet. Will that not elevate United? Are they not in a better position than what
But
they were last season?
you see the problem with that though is right. People give. I know you come to a new league, etc. But we're not dealing with Arteta here. This ain't no novice. The guy's been managing for years and years, and he got packed 7-0, and he had a couple 4-0 losses as well. And it almost felt like yes, he had a decent season, but why is everybody saying that Arsenal had a good season because everyone else fell off? But Man United's had a good season, but no one else fell off. Chelsea fell off. They should have been in their position. What about Liverpool? They should have been in their position. So in truth, they got third, but it's because maybe everyone else was so poor. Because if that's the same thing for Arsenal, they only had a good season because Liverpool fell off because they were meant to be the title challengers, right? That's what everyone kept saying.
You know what?
That's why I don't feel like listen, people know I don't rate Ten Hag. I think Ten Hag I really don't think he's a good manager.
But look,
And
I
feel
understand what you're saying with the Arteta situation, but you got to give Ten Hag
no, you have to give him props.
he's not worked with them United players before, and when he did step foot into United, the whole club was a mess. Everyone here was probably expecting United to finish 6th or 7th.
No,
He's
yeah,
come
I'm
in,
giving him
he's
props.
got these kind of players in. He's had to understand the players. He's had to find a system. He's had to implement his style on that team, which we can all sit here and say at that time, a lot of the United players weren't good enough to even play that kind of system. I don't think Arsenal would have took him in their team. I don't think Pep would have took him in their team. So he has put his imprint on that team. And him adding players, yeah, we might not see the Mount situation because personally, I don't rate Mount. I think James Maddison's a better player, might play a little bit different positions, but I would have probably went in for somebody different. But maybe this year now we have to give him, a chance to see what they can do, because even in the game versus Arsenal versus United, when we played them, yeah, it's pre-season, we looked in leggy, but to be fair, they pretty much wiped the floor with us in that game, and we had. Go on, Roms.
That's what I was going to come on to. I'm a kind of I'm not going to say Ten Hag's a bad manager, but I just think people overrate him. I think that's the word. I'm not going to say he's some dead manager, but one thing I respect that he's done, we've seen United in the past years that have had like more pragmatic managers like Louis van Gaal and Mourinho and whatnot, and then he just had Oli where it was just frantic. It was all over the place. It was counter-attacking football. He's trying to slowly add the pieces, but my thing with Ten Hag is I still do question his talent ID, because yes, you can bring in the Casemirs and whatnot, but you already know what you're going to get with them. But he's brought in players like Anthony, he's brought in players like Weghorst, he's brought in players like Smith and Malacia as well. Weghorst as well. We've not really even seen. The only one, Sabit Sako, I'm not going to bash him for that, because there's a lot of teams that kind of were after him, and he picked United. But my thing with Ten Hag is when the going gets tough, I've not seen him adapt to the situation, and especially against the big teams. Because I saw away at the Emirates, right? Cool, it was a closer game. It's not like you look random ragged, but he then lost that game. Anfield, we spanked them 7-0. Spurs, they were 2-0 up against Spurs, and we all know Spurs, they're meaty. Let's be honest, they're meaty. They come back against Spurs from 2-0 up to 2-2. I just question Brentford. He gets spanked. Brentford, City gets spanked 6-3. Two different players get a hat trick in the same game. That's crazy. For me, Ten Hag still has work to do. I agree with you, Prem. I do think we have to give him credit, because first season, look, he did win a trophy, and United at home, let's be honest, they're hard to beat. I think they only lost one game. But when people speak about them challenging and being there with Arsenal and City, I just don't see it. I've been saying, I think we finish above United next season, and I've said it to their fans. They think this is alien and whatnot.
And just to add on
Liverpool
Roms
could be a problem this year.
And just to add on Roms.
Yeah, they will be, I think.
What was their away record? Didn't they win like 2 games away?
Exactly.
So if this is an anomaly this season for Arsenal, it's more of an anomaly season for Man United. And look, you can't discredit. They walked away with a trophy. We left empty-handed with our tails between our legs. Yeah. We finished second. But of course, the whole debate was who had a better season, because we seem to be progressing to a new level, and they seem to be still on these kind of little boy small things. So for me, I'm like, look, I understand that he's done okay, but why I feel like it's annoying is because, and why I hold back on the praise is because honestly, this isn't no guy that's been doing this for 2 days. This guy's been managing for years and years. He's gone to a Champions League semi-final, and you're now acting like you don't know what you're doing. Okay, fine, and I understand. Again, you took the job, so you have to take the flack. If you're going to give you, I'm going to give you all the praise because you won a trophy. You have to take the bullshit that comes with it, and you've done some bullshit, so you need to hold your hands up, and that's it. So listen, man, for me, look, I'm not going to go crazy with the guy. I really don't see what the hype is. Anybody could have done better than Oli. Anybody. Yeah. So the floor, it was on the floor anyway. So really and truly, like, what has he done? He's got them to third, which is in my position.
But to be fair to them, he's got them into Champions League. He's won them a Carabao Cup, and he got them to the FA Cup final in his first season. So the way I'm seeing it is, obviously the reason why I've titled it with Man United Challenge, because I'm hearing it all over. I personally think they'll finish fourth.
You meant challenge for the top 4, yeah?
No, challenge for the title, because bro, you watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, bro. You be hearing a lot of these United fans, they're saying, "Look, United challenge."
Let me ask you.
I don't want to throw shade on people.
Let me ask you lot this year, because I'm not going to lie. I know enough from what I've seen. I do rate the things of United. If they've got the back four of Bissaka, Shaw, Varane, and Martinez, cool, they can do something. But the things with me, Varane's injury prone. I think he's even got injured yesterday. So. And then when you put in a Lindelof from Maguire, it's not really the same. If they bring in an Amra back with Casemiro, I've been saying, away from home, if you have them two in that double pivot, they're going to be hard to break down. I'm not going to lie.
Is that enough though? Like, is it enough?
I'm going to get onto. No, but listen. I'm going to get onto the attack unity. I'm going to ask all three of you, does this scare you? If I see them with a front line, which is looking likely, of Rashford, Højlund, and Anthony, that's not pulling down any trees for me. That doesn't scare me at
it's
all.
weak.
I think they're better off. I rate Garnacho highly. I don't like to give United praise, but that is one player who he just seems fearless. Like he'll just go at you, even an enigma, that guy. But I feel for that, what will be a bit scary for me is I know there's the whole people like to complicate football nowadays. Put him on the left so he can cut in. No, for me, they also start Garnacho because he had a good preseason role ahead of a Sancho or who else plays on the right, Anthony. If I saw Rashford, Garnacho, and a Højlund, that scares me a bit more. It's still not anything mad, but I feel like, you know what, that's a bit more dangerous. But when I'm hearing all this United challenge, for me, it's simple. I think it's going to be another 2-horse race with Arsenal and City. And I think us and United finish third and fourth. But I just think we swap places this season because this United thing where they can all of a sudden challenge, I'm not buying into it, man.
So you think Newcastle regress from last season?
I think they regress a lot. I think that Wednesday, Saturday is just going to get to them, man. I'm not saying they can't go back to that level, but I think Newcastle,
it's going to be
they fall off. That. Yeah. So it has to go down to go back. Yeah, literally that.
I think the question that you've asked, Premsy, are they going to be there to challenge? I think there is not. I'm telling you, there's no chance that they're going to challenge. None. There's zero chance. And I really have to say, over the course of 38 games, the disparity and the difference in the way that the teams play, they don't have enough. We're still at Arsenal's progression stage right now. We're still thinking that we don't have enough. Liverpool, who got Mo Salah, who scored, what is it, in 7 seasons, he scored 42, 36, 38, something crazy. They're still thinking, and Van Dijk, who cost all this money, and Alisson, and they're still thinking they ain't got enough. With Trent, Mr. Generational. Man City are the only team that are there thinking raw, like, you know what, bro, we've got it all. That's the only team, bro. Man,
I think that's
in the league. Even them this season, even City this season, they feel they don't have enough. I spoke to a few of their fans, and even they feel they don't have enough. So
fair enough. If that's the case,
they got Pep in it. They've got Pep, so he knows what he's
exactly.
doing, he's got that level of experience.
And they're still trying to get, what is that? What's the Croatian brother's name? I keep forgetting his name.
Vardio.
Vardio. And they bought Kovacic, or whatever his name is, and he looks decent. I saw one little preseason highlight. He looks all right. So for me, against Bayern Munich, I'm just saying, look, I'm trying to be honest. It's not a hating thing. If I look at Man United's team, the inconsistency of their best player, Rashford, he scores in chunks. Jadon Sancho, we know what we've seen him over the last 2 seasons, and it's not one, it's 2 seasons. We always do the whole 2-season thing. It's 2 seasons he's had a poor season, two poor seasons. Sorry, Anthony, I'm not convinced. The manager, the tactical kind of flexibility with the guy, again, I'm not convinced. The way that they play football, just counter attack, I'm not convinced. And then, I just don't see it. I don't see what the creativity. I don't trust Mount. I don't trust Bruno Fernandes. Honestly, I really don't. So for me, I can't put them in any league position where they're going to be above Arsenal. I really can't.
No, I can't see them finishing above Arsenal. I can't see them challenging for the league, but I can see them being better than what they were last season because the signings that they have made, it makes them better than what they were this season. That's just my honest opinion. I think the goalkeeper position, is a big plus Bish as well, because De Gea, we've all seen him literally regressing for years now. And the one thing is, modern day football, you need a good goalkeeper who's good with his feet. Even in pre-season against Real Madrid, you seen Onana, bro, he was nearly on the halfway line at times, man, which allowed his team to push forward. It was crazy. Go on, what was you going to say before we move on to Arsenal?
No, I was just going to say, I think that there's a situation where United could improve on the team they were last season and still end up having a worse season or in a worse position just because of the way that the league changes. And I think I know Lee said earlier that it's not always about star power, and I do definitely agree with him, but I think in United's case particularly, I think if instead of spending, because they must have spent, they kept talking throughout this window, they've been talking about, well, we can't get Osimhen or we can't get Kane because of financial fair play or this or that. But if you add together Højlund, Mount, who's the other one that they've just they bought? Onana. You add together a few of these transfers, you're already way over the number you would have had to pay for all-star striker like a Kane or a Osimhen to
Mm.
go in and get someone that's like pretty much certified, stamped, going to come in and get you X amount of goals. And I think if they'd done something like that, it would be different, because then I'd say, right, Ten Hag might be able to continue to get the best or even better out of the players he's got. And now they've added a guaranteed 30 goals on top of that. Maybe that's good. Maybe they're just going to become really hard to beat. They're going to score even more goals on the counter attack. They're going to have even more ways to get at teams and get goals. But that hasn't happened. They've gone out and spent about the same amount of money on. I agree with you. Onana was a good signing, but outside of that, I think they've just spent money on players that don't move the needle. To quote Lee, and I think they could be better than they were last season and still end up fourth this year, because Liverpool are going to be a problem. Liverpool are going to be a problem. City and Arsenal are not going to drop off much from what they did last year, because City are City and Arsenal have got a bit between their teeth. They're hungry, and you guys have added to what you already had, and you had a young team that's moving in the opposite direction. This United team, some of them players that were some of their best players last year, who knows when the Casemiro kind of curve is going to start to drop off. He's not going to be that player forever. What is he now? 30. Let me check how old he is.
31, I think.
30, he's 31, I think.
So
31,
Casemiro's 31. Varane's into his 30s now as well. Like, I'm not saying that at 31 you start, peaking, but we don't know if some of these guys could potentially. They're probably not going to get much better than they already are. Do you know what I mean? At least as an Arsenal, you might look at that team and say, Saka could go to another level next year. Martinelli could go to another level next year, even as good as they were. There's no guarantee that Saka doesn't step into Ballon d'Or level next year. I'm not saying I think he will, but there's no saying that he definitely won't. I don't think some of the best players at United.
There's a lot more higher ceilings. What you're trying to say?
There's
for
no more
the
gears
Arsenal
for them
players.
to go into.
I don't think they're in the same league as us anyway. And this is perfect. It segues us into the Arsenal conversation now.
Yeah.
And Lee, I'm going to come to you first, because there's been reports of Raya potentially looking to come to Arsenal. We're his favoured option. But can you see Arsenal going out there paying 40 mil for another goalkeeper?
The reason why I feel like they will get him is because I don't believe it will be 40 million. And my only thing I'm going to say on it, and I want to see what you guys say actually, is I don't get why people are crying and moaning about it. We want quality in this team. Listen, I'm telling you now, you see Partey this season, he's going to do a madness. You know why? Because you've got a fire lit under your belly. ESR, people know I'm not that high up on him. He's going to be good this season. Why? Because he knows he's got that number 10 shirt.
Wait, you don't rate him like that?
No. I think ESR's terrible, bro. I think he's so overrated. But I think he's going to have a better season this season, because why? He's got to perform where he knows he's out the door. Arteta don't play games, man. He's not. We know this guy is firm, and if he sees somebody slacking, you know that you need to bring somebody in to come and give you a bit of competition. And the only positions we didn't have competition in this squad So it was the goalkeeper and the right wing spot with Saka. So in truth, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. At least Odegaard, he's got Fabio Vieira, he's got ESR, he's got even Jorginho if he wants to put him there. It was literally the only position was Saka and Ramsdale. And listen, Ramsdale, I think he's going to have to go to a new level. Otherwise, if you're not cutting the mustard, bro, and I know, Roms, you don't rate Ramsdale like that. I know you don't. But for me, I think Ramsdale's a very good keeper. And listen,
No. Good. I do rate him, but I just don't think he's going to bring you to that champs or that Prem. I think Ramsdale's a good keeper. And this is what I think about the Raya thing, because I actually agree with you. I've been seeing a lot of Arsenal fans, so I'm happy. And it's like, from a rival perspective, everyone's kind of being, why are they doing that, getting mad. Really and truly, it's that other teams are jealous, bro. But this is one thing I'll say about having two keepers roughly on the same level, right? We know at a lot of big clubs, there's normally an outright one and outright second. And I know what you're going to say, obviously, when you bring in a player that's a similar level to you in your position, it should naturally raise the levels. But the only problem, I think, with this move is it's Euro year, and Raya's an Spanish international, Ramsdale's the English international. For me, he should be starting ahead of Pickford anyway, but that's a whole another conversation. We've seen in recent memory when there's been a top 6 team that's had two keepers roughly the same level, it doesn't last long. Like normally one gets fed up and wants to leave, especially when both of them are kind of about to enter their prime. Because you see it with Czech, right? Czech and Courtois at Chelsea, they're only there for one season. One of them said, you know what, I'm not a number 2. They cut. You saw at United, Romero and De Gea. Remember how good Romero was playing for United? He's like, you know what, I'm better than this. I need to cut. All I'm going to say is, I think the Raya deal happens. I know they're saying, the Brentford thing, he's quite stubborn. Remember, Spurs tried to get him and Levy didn't want to rise to 40 million. I think even if it is 40, Arteta, Eddie, their man aren't tight. I think they'll just rise up the money. However, I just feel both these keepers, put it like this, I don't think both these keepers will remain at Arsenal next summer if this happens. I think one of them will be like, look, I want to be starting week in, week out. I think we'll eventually want to leave. Because goalkeeper's a position where you don't rotate like that. And for me, Ramsdale and Raya are 2 wicked keepers. For me, both top 10 in the league. So one's going to get upset. Because if you're 10-1, you can play in cup competitions, but then the other one's playing like the league and Champions League. One's going to feel a type of way. I can see it happening already.
Do you know what? I think the mindset Arteta's trying to bring into the club now is that the competition for places and as a family where you share the games, some will play Champions League, some will play Premier League, and now you're in Champions League. Say, for example, if Raya was starting in Champions League games, FA Cup games, and so on, I think he'd be happy with that because, look, Brentford have signed a new keeper now as well, so there's nothing saying he's going to be their number 1. I think we need to go out there and sign him. There's talks of Turner going to Nottingham Forest, and I think that probably will happen. I think if we can get competition for places all around the squad, it's only healthy competition because I'm a big fan of Ramsdale. I like Ramsdale. I think he's done exceptionally well since he's come, but he's got a few mistakes in him. And also, you can't get too comfortable being that number 1 guy because once you're too comfortable, that's when shit starts hitting the fan. You get me? That's when you start making daft mistakes because you know there's no consequences behind you because you got to look at the level of Turner to Ramsdale. It's second to none, really. And Ramsdale eclipses him every day of the week. Where Raya comes in, I think Raya's a lot better with his feet as well. So you can then rejig the team around. There's nothing to say you can play 38 games in the Premier League and you're not going to get a sniff. I honestly believe that against different teams, you should outfield different opposition. You shouldn't be so predictable. You should be able to mix it up.
Why
in
do
net?
we always... Sorry, go on, Bish. Sorry.
I was just going to say, even in net, you feel like that.
Yeah, definitely, man.
I don't think really net, but you know what I was saying though? Like the whole thing with me, when you think about fantasy league, why do we always struggle to put Man City players in there? Because Pep, he won't
really,
take it's the worst thing because he 1 week
Yeah.
between De Bruyne, then he puts Foden in, then he takes that. Okay, maybe Haaland always plays,
But
but at the end of the season, it's sometimes Haaland won't play. So
you know what? You and Prem, I agree with you I actually think what you're saying is
position.
For outfield plays. But if we just looked recent memory, normally the top teams you have a clear 1 and 2.
Edison,
This is
Alisson, Casillas, flipping. You know what I mean? Valdez, like any of the
but you
top
know what it
teams I
is,
can
though,
think
like-
of, who had 2 goalkeepers that they were
good. That was good.
interchanging.
And when it happened, it would only be for
First
that
time
season.
for everything, man.
Yeah,
First time
bro.
for everything.
You know, on the
I'm
flip
with you,
side,
yeah.
maybe Arteta's setting a precedent. Maybe other teams like looking at him and be like, shit, we
Or maybe he's going to play
I would
Ramsbottom right mid or something. You never
I
know.
said
what he's doing.
Ramsdale. That's crazy.
No,
bro.
but look, where I'm coming from with rotating the
Say
goalkeepers
Ramsdale,
is,
you know.
for example, when you're playing against teams like that sit more low block, you can afford to have a Raya in goal. He's gonna come out more. He's gonna
That's
be able to
crazy, bro.
pass the ball better with his feet. Do you know what I mean? When you're playing against the bigger teams and the teams that is going to be level possession, maybe have a Ramsdale in goal who's probably a better shot stopper or somebody that's got a bit more of a presence.
Hey,
So you
yo.
can rotate him because Ramsdale ain't going to give you what Raya gives you with his feet. It's not happening.
Man said Ramsbottom though. That's crazy. bro.
Ramsbottom, you know.
Go on, Bish. Do you reckon there's going to be a lot of pressure on Arsenal this season? Because I honestly, as an Arsenal fan, I keep it honest. I think it's going to be a lot harder for us this season to do what we done last season because, yeah, we might have signed players, but I think there was no added pressure last season. Nobody expected us to do that. People were kind of bombarded by the style of play and the likes of Saliba in the team and the presence of him and stuff like that, where now with Arsenal, people are expecting us to be good. Yeah, it's good getting the fear factor back and winning games before you've even stepped out on the pitch, which I've missed for ages. But with that extra expectancy, being in the Champions League as well, having to field out your strongest team in both competitions pretty much week in, week out, is that going to have an effect on us? Do you reckon you're going to see the same Arsenal?
It's a difficult one. I actually don't think Arsenal have had the best transfer window. I don't think they've done terrible business, but I don't think that they've, similarly to United, but not to the same extent as United. I just don't feel like the additions that they've made, that there's enough there for me to say, right, they've really, really, really strengthened. I think they have done well to get rid of a few players, and the people they've brought in are better. You know, getting rid of Xhaka and bringing in Rice, I think that's a definite improvement. But I think where I would be quietly confident as an Arsenal fan is, I think that even if teams know who Arsenal are and know and now know what they're facing up against, and have got, you know, strategies and tactics that they've developed from last season that they're bringing, I think because that team was, to me, that team still looked like it was evolving. It didn't look like a team that was just riding on a high, and it also didn't look like a team that had kind of reached its full potential and hit a ceiling. I think that they're gonna hit the ground this year hungry to win and hungry to compete, but also still in that learning phase. You know, yes, they've got Champions League games to juggle now, but for a lot of these players, it's their first time playing in the Champions League. So that sounds deep.
James in the cup, big up James. No, I'm just laughing at James.
But you know, I'm not having a dig at Arsenal, but a lot of these players, it's their first time playing in the Champions League, so that can obviously means that's going to be a learning process. But hopefully, they can take a bit of the pressure off and say, right, we're same way last year we were learning about a title race for the first time. For a lot of these guys, we're going to be learning about what it takes to try and get out the group stages in the Champions League, what it takes to try and win a last 16 game over 2 legs, a quarterfinal game over 2 legs. And I think that they can kind of go into the Champions League with that mentality of like, yeah, we should get out of our group. We've got to try and get out of the group. But there was many years when City first got in the Champions League where we were struggling to get out of the group. Then we was struggling to win that first game after the group, because you have to learn this and you have to go through that process. So I think it's a bit different sometimes when you're a City or a Liverpool, for example, who are like competing for the title and expected to compete for the Champions League. But I don't think Arsenal necessarily are going to be carrying that expectation in this year of like,
we're like
we
four
should be
favourites with the book.
Yeah, and I can understand why, because you were close second to best team in the league and City were the best team in Europe. So, but I think that in reality, given how much experience it takes to win a Champions League, and given that there's not really any players in that team that have done it before or seen what it takes to win one, Arteta's not won one. I just don't think, from my experience with City anyway, I don't think it happens like that. I think Arsenal need to, have a good run this year in the Champions League, make some mistakes, learn, come back next year, compete in the Champions League again. You need to have 2-3 years in the Champions League, and these players to grow and stay with Arsenal, and Saka to be 25, 26 and have been there and lost in a semi-final and had disappointment and then get over the line. So I say all that to say, I think that Arsenal will be a similar proposition in the Premier League. I think that they'll start well. I think they'll compete well. I think that there could be a scenario where Liverpool start really strongly as well, and where either Arsenal and Liverpool start to create a bit of space early on, or City and Liverpool create a bit of space early on. But I think that by the end of the season, it will be those 3-ish competing with about 6 weeks, 8 weeks to go, and then it'll probably fall down to 2 of them. Yeah. And I think as Arsenal, if with 6 to 8 weeks to go at the end of the season, you're still in the title race again, I think obviously you want to improve on last year. You want to try and win one. But again, with this young squad and with a young manager, I wouldn't panic if next season you still didn't win the league. You came second again and had a good run in the Champions League. Because again, sometimes, especially with the level of opposition that you're coming up against, sometimes that's what it takes. You have to look at City with the Champions League. We had to knock on the door for years to get over that line. So if I was Arsenal, that would be the messaging that I'd be giving to the players. That'd be the messaging that I'd be giving to the manager, or that I'd be giving as the manager. Like, we just got to go out there and do the same as we did last year and continue to learn and grow. And as long as we do that, we'll be there or thereabouts.
I think the difference is, though, Bish, I think the only thing where I'm a little bit more optimistic is because he's brought in so many players, I think those players that were there last season know they have to be hungry. Otherwise, they're not even getting suited up, because there's 9 subs and certain man won't even make bench. So I think, you're right. Like, and my dad said it. He's almost like we spent 200 million, and he's looking at him thinking, what have we spent 200 million on? So I kind of get you. I do get you a little bit from where my dad was saying. But for me, I just look at it and I'm like, look, do I like Havertz? No. Like, I'm never gonna pretend like I do. But I keep saying it. I think he's gonna get goals. Do I think they're gonna be the instrumental goals? No. But I feel like he's gonna get 12, 13 goals. I don't know
Who's
how.
that? Sorry,
You know
Havertz.
the
He
little
probably
back
will, to be
burst
fair.
goals, isn't it? The little back
Yeah,
burst.
like them,
Yeah,
like, yeah. So,
I
and I
know
feel
you
like
mean.
for
I see
me,
it.
I'm like,
Yeah.
those kind of games where we play, I know they're not in the league, but like a Burnley away, he'll pop up with a goal. And I feel like we're gonna get to a point where we're just gonna be chugging along. We're gonna play decent football. The football doesn't have to be as good as it was last season, but it's about getting results, because ultimately I don't think we can have a season where you're kind of saying where we kind of just challenge, because we're at the outlay we're putting and the amount of money everybody on this panel, we keep saying the same thing. It's gone up to, what is it, 670 million pounds, and then it's going to go up to 800 million. So we're spending all this money. We're basically being Man United, but we're just doing a little bit, playing better football. We have to get end results. So I feel
100%.
like there has to be something where the owners are putting something on him. And that's why I asked a question a few weeks ago, is Arteta our sort of Brendan Rodgers? So it's going to be interesting, but I do think we'll have a little bit of a better season than what people are making out. And I think people forget how good Jesus was the first 5 months.
I was just
People
about to
forget
say,
how good
you didn't have a full season of
We didn't
Jesus.
have a full season of him, and then he came back, and coming back from a knee injury like that takes time. So I think
He's
if
looking sharp in pre-season, though.
Look at
He's
that goal,
positive.
that chip. Woo.
yeah, so I think if we get rid of a couple of the players, I think that we need to, and we maybe get one more player. I don't know where, but I just think that I know it's and I don't want to sort of act like it's not the ifs like Man United, because Man United have ifs, but I feel like with us, our ifs are more guarantees. So like, because we've got so like ESR, I'm not that high up on him, but I think he's gonna have a good season. I think Jesus is gonna get at least 4 more goals than what he got last season, which was, I think, was 11 or 10. Sorry, I think Saka's gonna get the goals. I think so. I just think that this team is a lot further than what people give it credit for. But listen, it's gonna be one thing for sure, 2 things for certain. It's gonna be interesting.
Rams, before we come to you, let me get this super chat in. Big up Hit 44 for the super chat. He says, Mikel saw these mistakes in pre-season and was like, nah, brother, you're way too comfortable. LOL, talking about Ramsdale there.
Yeah.
Bring in Kvara and move Martinelli to the 9 position, which is possible. And he also says, here, King Kai to bag the winner versus City in the Champions League final. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Go on, Bish. Was you going to say something before we move on to Rams?
No, I was just going to say I'd seen he dropped another super chat. So yeah, man, we appreciate that. Much love.
110%. Roms, give us your thoughts on Arsenal. Last say we're going to wrap the show up.
So just echoing what Bish said, I do think it will be Arsenal, City, and Liverpool till about the March kind of time, and then I think we're winning Europa League. I've said that. I know you might laugh, but I just think we're going to be the favourites. We should be winning that. We're going to start our weaker teams, earlier stages. The lat stages, Klopp will probably prioritise that. Obviously, we're still going to try and go for the league, but I think where City and Arsenal, for me, are just levels above. Even with the potentially Lavia coming in, and we're probably going to get a centre back in as well. Even with incomings, Arsenal and City, for me, are just above. And I think when it gets to about the last 6-7 weeks of the season, we're going to start getting a few results where you're like, oh, how did they drop points there? Where City and Arsenal will carry on this upward trajectory. They'll be more consistent than us. So I think we'll keep the pace of you up until about February, March. Then we'll fall off. But as for Arsenal, I can see going up another level this year. I genuinely can. I just think Arteta and Edu are so shrewd in their signs, because people say, "Oh, it's modern day. It's the modern day transfer strategy to sign players that can play multiple positions." But Arsenal and City sign players that can play multiple positions well, not just to do a job. They can actually play that position well, and this is why if you do sign Mohamed Kudus, I think that will be again another excellent signing, because it's not that he can just play left, right, false 9, 10. He can do all 4 positions very well, and I can see Arsenal and City again. This just being a two-horse race, and I do think Champions League is hard because it does depend on the draw. But look, you're in pot 2, and when I look around Europe, if I'm being totally honest, it's only Madrid and City that I think are better than Arsenal in this moment in time. Yeah, you've never won it before. Yeah, you don't have that pedigree in the competition. But if you're gonna go by quality, I don't have Bayern ahead of you lot. I don't have PSG ahead of you lot. I think if Arsenal meet Madrid or Man City, I just think they're the two teams that will eliminate you. But I think Arsenal get probably quarters and semis, depending on the draw, if you can avoid a City or Madrid. And I think, again, you and City challenge. If I had to give my prediction, I still think City pip you to the league. But I think it's much closer now. I think it could go to the last day, a point. Similar to what we did with City, I think Arsenal will go up to that level this season because I think the signs have been shrewd. I think keeping Party as well. We spoke about it for weeks. I think
massive.
The fact you're going to keep him.
If we get Kudus, I'll leave it there. If we leave Kudus, could get Kudus, sorry, we win the league. I think he's that good. I honestly do.
I rate him highly as well, man. Highly.
No, you know what? It's one of them seasons where it's going to be interesting to watch. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that have improved. I think even the likes of Newcastle bringing in Tonali and stuff like that, people are saying that they might fall off, which is expected because they're ahead of their schedule in development. But I think there's a lot of teams in the Premier League that are going to be developing this season, and it's going to be interesting to watch. I think bigger teams will lose points at smaller grounds because of the recruitment that they made. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see. But people, we have come to the end of the show. I just want to say a big thank you to all my panel. It's a brilliant show as usual. Big up the guests as well that are in the cut and throwing in comments all the time. Big up yourselves. All the Mandem's channel links are in the description below. Please go and subscribe to their channel. Hit the subscribe here if you're not already, and like the stream, people. But everybody, we'll be back next week. Peace and love. See you later.
Love.